for the first time, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will look each other in the eye. They will come face to face in what may be the only debate before the election day on November 5th here in the United States. In the first debate between Trump and Joe Biden, 50 million Americans tuned in to watch what was really the most watched moment of the 2024 presidential race. That could well be surpassed tonight. An estimated 80 million Americans are expected to see Trump and Harris take each other on NDTV's Vishal Vivek on the lead-up and what to expect from tonight's showdown.
Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries.
They have traded barbs.
Kamala Harris is a radical California liberal who broke the economy, broke the border, and broke the world, frankly.
And attacked each other over policies and other issues. Now, the time has come for a showdown, as the theatrics will culminate into their first presidential debate when the ABC News hosts them for one of the most important nights in the election race. According to reports, the former president has been reviewing policy positions with advisors in the lead-up to the debate. Other reports suggest that Trump has been fine-tuning the theatrics of his performance. He has experience on his side, as he has already been on a presidential debate stage 6 times. His confidence was palpable when he said last week that he's been preparing all his life for this debate. On the other hand, this is Kamala Harris's presidential debate debut, with just a few weeks to prepare for the big event. Harris has spent the past week in a Pennsylvania hotel, going through policy books. To counter Trump's expected theatrics, the Harris team has reportedly built a mock television stage, which is fully fitted with a debate podium and has a proper lighting. According to reports, top advisors are playing the role of Trump, even dressing up like the 78-year-old.
This idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. You don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on.
Traditionally, viewers have focused more on candidates that unnerve their opponents or seem more confident, with policy proposals not playing a big role. When Trump and Harris have a go at each other, America and the rest of the world will be watching closely for signs of confidence. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Okay, so time to debate the debate here on NDTV US Election Watch. Rachael Dean Wilson with the German Marshall Fund, a think tank, joining us. Rachael is also former communications director for the late US Senator John McCain. We also have Zenia Bahel. She's a journalist and professor. Thank you very much for joining us here this morning. Rachael, first to you. Kamala Harris has been really on a euphoric run, a high after Joe Biden stepped aside, but the polls show that she really hasn't been able to make bigger strides, surge past Donald Trump. The criticism remains. Voters don't know who she is. She needs to better define herself. We hear this over and over again, and tonight is a chance to do that. But what really does that mean? What does it mean for her to define herself for American voters?
Absolutely. The importance of tonight can't be understated. This may be the only opportunity that voters get to see both candidates debate one another together on stage, duking it out on the issues. For Trump, the bar is pretty low in that, or relatively low, in that he needs to show up and look somewhat presidential, not remind voters of kind of the most chaotic version of Trump. And for Harris, the bar is higher. It's a little more complicated. She is new to the ticket. She had the opportunity to introduce herself to the country, which may seem funny as a sitting vice president, but she does not have, really, she's not as well known as the former president Trump is to the US electorate. And so she really did have this opportunity to introduce herself at the convention. But that's a very scripted platform, and you get to tell your story exactly the way you want to tell it. Which is a great opportunity that both of the candidates have. And this is a completely different setup where she is going to have to show and tell the American people who she is. On the telling part, I think she's most effective when she's talking about how she is going to be a president for everyone and focusing in on the economy. And I think on the showing part, it's really going to be how she is interacting with Donald Trump. And so there is a fine balance there. She doesn't want to get out over her skis and aggressiveness if he is going to play it safe and calm and cool and collected. And so she really has to be in a position where she is able to kind of shift strategies depending on what she's getting from her debate opponent.
Right, Zenia, what about you? What are you hoping to hear from Kamala Harris tonight?
So firstly, I'm very excited for this debate, and I'm going to start off with actually talking about the Siena Times poll, which shows that both the candidates, Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, are pretty much neck to neck, specifically in the key swing states, right? And when we talk about the key swing states, we also have to talk about the policies and
Right.
what the viewers want to hear from both these presidential candidates, right? One is a vice president. Of course, she is coming fresh to this presidential debate. This is her first presidential debate. We've seen her with Pence in the vice president debate that we saw in the last election. And then on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's at this point, I'd like to call him a veteran for presidential debates, right? We all remember how he targeted Hillary Clinton, calling her a nasty woman, and then also he said that he's going to send her to jail. So it's going to be very interesting how this plays out, right? Will he attack her specifically on policies with regards to economy, inflation, immigration, abortion, social security, Medicare? All these are internal issues. Foreign affairs with regards to, of course, the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, right? Their stance on Israel for both the candidates. That's what voters want to hear about, right? We are unclear currently regarding Trump's stance on quite a few key policy-related issues. His issues on, we know about taxation, but let's say childcare, for example, which is very important, very relevant to a very large voter base. We know about his stance on immigration, right? He wants to continue to build the wall if he comes to power. But with Kamala Harris, right, she's kind of followed pretty much what the Biden administration has implemented. And the question remains as to whether she will distance herself somewhat from some of Biden's policies, whether she will completely agree with him, whether she'll be in complete alignment, how she's going to do things differently, whether she's going to answer those questions. Of course, it remains to be seen. But, the last debate between Biden and Trump was watched by 50 million viewers. Let's see, will this break the Super Bowl record?
Well, apparently 80 million this time, if those estimates are to be believed. Rachel, talking about Trump's strategies, right, Zenia alluded to that as well. One of the things that we're likely going to see, he's going to try and link Harris deeply with Biden. She's just a continuation of the Biden presidency, not this breath of fresh air in terms of a new start and change that Americans want to see. So on the debate stage, how is Trump going to try and define Harris for the world?
Yeah, and they really are in this battle, both Harris and Trump, to define Harris as a candidate. And so you're going to see that play out on the debate stage tonight. From Trump's perspective, what he needs to do is list unpopular Biden administration policies, be it on the border or on the economy, inflation, and tie Harris to that strongly to the administration. You were there the entire time. You were a critical part of this administration, and present her as not a change agent, but a continuation of the way Americans feel right now about the challenges in this country. And there's a feeling that those are immense. So who is going to change the equation? Both candidates want to be the answer to that question, and we'll see who comes out on top tonight.
Right. Zenia, Harris speaks charismatically to large crowds. Her supporters seem to love her. She's riding on that high. But she's often doing that with a teleprompter, prepared script. When it comes to actually speaking off the cuff, and of course there'll be no notes tonight, no teleprompter at the debate. She's debated before, but not with Donald Trump, and certainly not a presidential debate. Any worries there about how she's going to be able to tackle Trump off the cuff?
That's a great question, Allister, and that's something that I have been thinking about, going through some of her previous debates. A lot of, what she said during her campaign, what she even said during the interview with CNN's Dana Bash has been primarily scripted, right? There have been some flip-flops on policy, for example, her stance on fracking, but it's going to be interesting to see how, she tackles Trump's one-liners, right? What she might say to his barbs. Her administration did push for unmuted mics, but unfortunately that did not happen. And as was noted in your show, and as has been reported, that Trump campaign has been preparing aggressively, especially to target Kamala Harris with regards to policy and the policies that have been implemented by the Biden administration, right? And let's not forget what Tulsi Gabbard said about Harris, and she stated that Harris needs to apologize for being for her work as a public prosecutor in California, putting over 1,400 people in prison and unfairly targeting Black and brown, immigrants and of course, criminals. So, well, I would correct that word, Black and brown people, right? Unfairly targeting those. So let's see how, Trump questions Harris and questions her with regards to her record as a public prosecutor, with regards to her flip-flop on policies on, issues such as fracking. And also, let's see how the debate pans out when it comes to abortion. But given Harris's record as being, as you said, a charismatic leader, somebody who is very articulate, right? Especially given the performance that we saw from Joe Biden in the last presidential debate, I think that Harris will be able to successfully combat Trump. And bring the focus to policies and bring the focus to what the voters and viewership actually want to hear about, right? I mean, we've seen all his social media messages calling Kamala Kambala and lying Kamala and all the misogynistic comments. But of course, his team has told him to dial that back and not do a repeat of 2016. And actually, the Kamala Harris, I read in New York Times that Kamala Harris's administration is really hoping that we see a repeat of 2016 so that she can, combat him and provide those one-liners that she's very famous for too, right? So let's
and
see
that's what they're kind of hoping for, right, Rachel? A repeat of a very, very emotional Trump going on to a rant, because according to reports, Trump has, in fact, privately acknowledged how his first 2020 debate, the 2020 debate, not the most recent one, with Joe Biden didn't go down well. If you recall, he repeatedly spoke over Biden. Biden famously said to him, "Will you shut up, man?" And then soon after that debate, Trump's polling numbers declined after that first debate there. Now, given Trump's dislike for Harris, do you think he's going to keep his emotions in check? Because he really needs to come across as presidential.
He does need to come across as presidential. One thing I do want to make clear, though, from a campaign strategy perspective, both campaigns, part of the strategy is to goad the candidates in their campaigns. So even the Harris campaign is doing this with ads targeting Donald Trump specifically to kind of rile him up before tonight, hoping that they can amp up the conversation and the public pressure so much so that he will have a 2016 moment. I think if the Donald Trump that showed up against Joe Biden shows up tonight, that the Harris campaign is in trouble, because there were so many opportunities during that debate with Joe Biden where Trump could have, made the story about himself, and he really reined it in. So if there's a reined in Trump tonight, I think that is a more difficult situation for Harris to react to than if he is more of the 2016 version where he's cutting people off. Now there's a muted mic
Right.
in between questions and answers, so he will not be able to just ramrod anyone who's speaking. I mean, I remember watching, the 2020
Yeah.
debate. I remember watching the 2020 debate, and I thought, well, we've ruined presidential debates from this point forward, because it was actually unwatchable. And so I think we might get around some of that with this this format tonight. And it proved me wrong, because the debate
right.
Biden and Trump was more consequential than almost any debate before it. So yes, we will have to see what comes tonight.
Right.